Well, hello there, friends and family. You might wonder where we're at today. Well, where we're at is what used to be the home site of a homestead or farm. And from aerial photography, this place was still active from 1944 to about 1967, based on historical aerial photography. After which there's not any photos of it. And of course, the last photo of it in 2009 shows it's gone. And if you watch me walk in here, you can see it's quite overgrown now. It's all but a memory, except some trash laying around. But I thought this would be a fitting place to talk to you about how we can prevent our own personal impact event. And what we've been talking about is our top three choices, or first three choices, that we would make for food storage. So y'all, I brought along a little pack with me. It's my day pack. And what I wanted to share with you right now was, the accumulation of your comments and replies. And there were 35 pages of comments and replies. And that came to a total of 170 different comments and replies. And I had to read through every which one of them to get to what y'all thought would be your number one, number two, and number three pick as to your first three choices that you'd pick for food storage. Now what I'd like to say is many people went above and beyond that, and they provided all kinds of information on additional things they would store. And that's fantastic. You see, folks, other than this video, see, the video just sparks the conversation. And it's up to y'all to join in, share your experiences and knowledge, so others who come across this video can learn from it. They can follow your lead. And that's what makes these videos so informative and so valuable. Not only to my family, my kids, my grandson, but to your family and friends. And hopefully you'll share this video and you'll let people know there's something to learn here. Something that you can learn from not just watching this video, but from reading the comments. I learned a few things in reading these comments. I also, through your comments, had to go back and think about things of why I made decisions I made, why they were beneficial or why they were not. So with that all said, we'll just lay these down. We're going to get into the meat of things. Now, because I'm a little bit older, I had to make some notes of why y'all chose the things that you did. Now, for those of you who have been doing this for a while, you'll probably guess these. I probably could have too. We've got to understand, there are people out there right now, based on what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, that they may not know. And that's why I want to do this video and this video series as we transgress through it. But if you had to guess what the number one pick would be, what would you think it would be? Well, I was pretty sure it'd be one of two things. But it came out overwhelmingly, it'd be dried beans. But why dried beans? And that's why I said in the first video, not only tell your choices, but why. And those of you who chose to tell why, one of the main reasons was cheap. And I'll be truthful, that was one of my first reasons too. But then once I looked into it in a little more depth, as I've been doing this over the years, I also understood that beans provide a high amount of protein. And we all need protein, right? And in food scarcity or life-changing event, a personal impact event, whether that's job loss, natural disaster, whatever, we all need that protein. And it does have some carbohydrates. But beans also have a lot of minerals. And vitamins. But another reason I chose it, as you did, was for the long storage life. Now granted, beans at some point in time, whether it be a year, 2 years, 3 or 5, if not stored properly, will get to the point where they're just not going to absorb water, they're not going to plump up, and they're just not going to be cookable anymore. But that doesn't mean that they're not worth anything. Beans can be ground for flour. Many of you may have not known that. And I didn't know that until about 20 years back or so. But yeah, you can grind beans and make flour out of it too. So, my main purpose for doing the beans was they were cheap, long storage life. But like I say, once I got more involved in it, the fact that I could grind them for flour or grind them, make refried, I was all the more into it. Now the second item that y'all chose more often than all the others, which you may have understood, was going to be rice. And that's always been my first or second as well. Here again, number one reason is cheap. Second reason being long storage life. In fact, rice has an almost indefinite storage life if you preserve it in the right fashion. Now you can put it up in mylar bags with an oxygen absorber, moisture absorbers. That works well too. You can also do it, as I do it, and do what you call dry canning. That's where you sanitize mason jars, fill the mason jars up, and then process them in the oven at about 220 degrees for somewhere around an hour, hour and a half. Now what does that do for you? That makes sure to kill off all the bugs that might be in your rice. I do the same thing with my beans as well, because there is stuff in the bags, folks. Now you can keep them in the bags that you buy them in for 6 months to a year. But if you're not good at rotating your stores, you might want to think about dry canning. It's one of the most economical ways to ensure that you kill off anything like mealworms, other types of worms, maggots, mites, that might turn your rice and beans into a mess when you open them up years from now. But rice is high in carbohydrates. which provide energy. And you're going to need energy in a grid down situation, life-changing event, personal impact event, whatever. We all need energy. And the great thing about rice is when you pair them with beans, you make a complete complex carbohydrate. You've got your protein, you've got your carbohydrates. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals associated between the two. And what you might not know, beans, they have a lot of fiber, but rice has fiber, some protein, vitamins and minerals. And I'm not going to go into depth about all that. You can go on the internet, Mr. Google, and you can look up the benefits of rice, beans for yourself. But you might wonder what would be the third one. And the third one I also store and stockpile to some extent, and that was wheat flour or wheat berries. Now initially I did like many of y'all suggest, and I was storing wheat flour, and I have some of that stored even now. But once I got into researching it more in depth, I understood that wheat flour can go bad. So I got more into looking at wheat berries, which will virtually last forever. And if you go ahead and store the raw, natural wheat berries, the best of which is your hard red wheat, you can grind it later for flour. Something you may not know, if it's stored properly in an oxygen and moisture free environment, you can pop wheat. Now I didn't know that till a few years back. And I've never tried it, but that might be something we need to look into. The fourth most mentioned thing to put back, stock up on, was dried corn. And that's my third choice. My first was beans. My second was rice. My third has always been dried corn. And you might say, well, why dried corn? Well, first of all, I can't grow rice here. I don't think most of us can grow rice anywhere in the country. Some of you can, but the majority of us can't. And we can all grow beans pretty much anywhere in America. But the other thing we can grow in abundance is corn. Now, for dried corn, you're going to want to plant and store what they call dent corn or flint corn or popcorn. I'll talk about popcorn here in a little bit. The dent and flint corns can be left on the stalk to dry in the fields and then ground for cornmeal, corn flour. But you can also, and this was done back in the day, I mean, we're talking pioneer times, they would shuck off the whole kernels, soak them in water, and make sort of like a corn kernel porridge out of them. Now, I've never ate it, not sure how tasty it is, but it can be done. But something I want to bring up now is popcorn. And I'll also keep that on hand. Popcorn you can also grind for cornmeal, corn flour. You can pop it, which we all know. And you can use it in 3 different ways, where if you try to pop dent or flint corn or sweet corn, that's not going to happen. So corn was always my third. Here again, it's cheap, readily available, easy to store. And that's the one thing about these top 3 choices. They use virtually nothing to put them back. to store them up. Now, yes, you do got to have containers. Yes, it would be nice to have oxygen absorbers, moisture absorbers. All that's readily available. You can use the dry canning method of putting them in mason jars. You can use the Mylar bag method. And you can put them up for long-term storage. All of them are inexpensive. And if you take, say, the top four, beans, rice, wheat, and corn, you pretty much got a good, solid foundation of a menu for survival and to thrive. Now, the one thing you don't have, between those four, you got B vitamins, you got manganese, you got folate, you got iron, zinc, copper. There's no vitamin C. And that is something that we'll be looking at in a future video. What to add to these basics, these top three. Now, many of y'all expanded on this category. Potatoes were quite popular. Both instant potatoes and growing your own. Peanuts was mentioned. Onions. Several of you mentioned pet food. You got to have pet food. And I agree. That was not the purpose of the video. But that's the point of community, of sharing experience and knowledge. Y'all provided way more than what I asked for. The fifth recommendation y'all made, which I also keep on hand and store up, is oatmeal. Oats. Oatmeal. For all the same reasons. First of all, it's cheap. And then, it is also high in certain vitamins and minerals. But I don't want you to be stockpiling food and starting your food storage just on the pure basis of it's cheap. I want you to understand the beans provide the protein and a minor amount of carbohydrates. The rice provides carbohydrates for energy plus additional protein. And between the two, beans and rice, you can put them together and you can almost have a complete survival food. Now you add on stuff like wheat, oatmeal, all these four, well, beans, oatmeal, wheat, have fiber. And we definitely need fiber. And trust me, as you get older, you'll understand how important fiber is. I know I definitely do. But you gotta look at what you can do with all this. Beans, not only can you store them for a long period of time, you can grind them for flour, but you can also use your seed to replant. The same goes for wheat bearings. Grind it for flour. You can pop it, or so I'm told. I'm going to try that. You can make porridges out of it and replant it. The same goes with oatmeal. You can use it to grind for flour as well. You can use it as rolled oats, which is what we normally associate our oatmeal with, or you can use it to replant. And that goes true with popcorn. You can grind it to flour, you can use it to replant, and of course you can pop it. And who doesn't love popcorn? But I encourage all of y'all to go through these comments. to read through these 170 comments and replies, because they're jam-packed with information from all of y'all. It would take me several hours of video to even cover the amount of information that all of y'all provided here. Things like making sure you have spices for flavoring, oils for the fat. Now that is an important thing. You gotta have fat, folks, no matter what. Fat's essential to this up here working, your brain. Now unfortunately in America, we eat too much of that. But in a survival situation, you're gonna need it. So you're gonna need stuff like cooking oils, lard, fat. You're gonna need to think about the other things that you're gonna need to make life a little bit more tolerable. And that's where the spices comes in. Can you imagine sitting down to a bowl of beans and rice every day, sort of bland, no salt, no pepper, no nothing? Yeah, you're hungry, you'll eat it. But how much better would it be if you could spice it up, if you could add to it? And that's what a lot of people suggested. Spices, your basic spices, salt, pepper, as well as a whole array of spices, so you can change it up some. And I keep a lot of spices on hand. People also went off and included things like canned meats, canned vegetables because of the water content, and so many other things that I don't want to go into on this video. In the third video in this series, we're going to be looking at some of those things we will add to this. Because what I want to do with this video series, guys, is I want it to be like stepping stones. Here's the basics. Now what do we do? And just build from there. So with all that said, we're going to head on back to the house. And I'll cover my 3 choices a little bit more in detail. Well now y'all, as we make our way out of this overgrown mess that once was a homestead, what I'll be doing towards the end of this video is I'll be going over some of the more notable comments. We'll actually go in on the computer and we'll look those over. Because I think, you know, people who went above and beyond in this effort deserve a shout out. Of course, I actually think every last one of you do. Why? Because you took the time to share what you thought. That's what makes these videos so great. I've said it many times. Far greater than the video. We're going to make our way out of here. And we're going to head back on to the house where we'll fall over, trying to carry a camera and work our way through this underbrush, which is not so easy. And we'll see you back at the house when we get there. Well, y'all, we made it back. As I was walking back from the deep woods over there, where that old homestead once was, I was thinking, it's already a long video, so I think I'm going to be breaking this up into 2 videos. This will be part 1 of a 2-part video series that's going to cover not only my choices, but your main choices that you pick first, as well as all the other choices that you shared, and why. And we'll be taking you on into the kitchen where we're going to set out many of those, so we can take a more in-depth look at not only The variety is available, but the nutritional benefit and advantages and disadvantages of each as we look each of them over. Now, some of you may be wondering why I chose to walk on over to that old homestead. Well, the reason was it's all about decisions. You see, they made decisions in their lives. And over the years, those decisions influenced other decisions that compounded on past decisions that eventually led to the demise of that old homestead. And like I say, you can see it on old aerial photography, which is available courtesy of the University of Alabama archives, from 1944 up to 2009. And it was an active farm, prospered. But in 2009, it's been long gone, not sure how long. That's why it's important. And to me, food is the #1 concern. If you go to bed every night and you know that there won't be a day that you'll go hungry, that just takes one piece off the board that you don't have to worry about any day. Doesn't matter whether you lose your job, natural disaster, governmental chaos, financial collapse. So, with all that said, folks, we're going to leave you now. And until we see you on the next video, I want each and every one of y'all to take care. Stay safe out there. And God bless you. Goodbye for now.